The Memphis Zoo was a symphony of sounds, from the squawk of exotic birds to the low rumble of a lion's yawn. But in the primate enclosure, a different kind of music was playing. Or, rather, a different kind of listener was active. His name was Marvin, a chimpanzee with remarkably intelligent eyes and an even more remarkable ear for music. Marvin wasn't like the other chimps. While his companions Caesar and Lily might busy themselves with grooming or playful wrestling, Marvin often seemed lost in thought, or more accurately, lost in sound. It all started. One of the zookeepers, Sarah Miller, a woman with a kind smile and an encyclopedic knowledge of primate behavior, often brought a small portable radio with her. She liked to have some background noise while she cleaned enclosures or prepared meals. Mostly, it played soft rock or easy listening, nothing too wild. But then, one Tuesday morning, the local classic rock station started playing an Elvis Presley marathon. Sarah had been humming along to Hound Dog while wiping down the feeding platforms when she noticed something odd. Marvin, usually curious and active, was completely still. He was sitting on a high perch, his head cocked, his dark eyes fixed on the radio, almost as if he understood the lyrics. When the song ended, he let out a low, hoo-hoo sound, a soft, chimp vocalization that Sarah usually heard when he was content. She tried another song, something by a different artist, a slower ballad. Marvin glanced at it briefly, then went back to picking at a loose thread on his straw bedding. Sarah was intrigued. She queued up Jailhouse Rock on her phone, connected it to the radio's auxiliary input, and hit play. The moment the iconic guitar riff started, Marvin's head snapped up. He bounced lightly on his perch, his fingers tapping a rhythmic pattern on his thigh. He wasn't just listening, he was reacting. Over the next few weeks, Sarah conducted her own unofficial experiment. She'd play different genres for Marvin: classical, jazz, country, pop. He'd tolerate most of them, sometimes even ignore them. But the moment an Elvis Presley song came on, Marvin would transform. He'd become animated, sometimes swaying his body, sometimes even making what looked like little dance moves, a shuffle, a quick spin, a gentle thump of his chest in time with a bass drum. His hoots and vocalizations became more frequent, more joyful. The other zookeepers at first dismissed it as a funny quirk. Marvin's just being Marvin, they'd say, chuckling. But Sarah saw something deeper. Marvin wasn't just entertained, he was profoundly affected. His stress levels seemed to drop when Elvis was playing. He was less prone to agitation, more cooperative during training sessions, and even seemed to interact more gently with his fellow chimps. It was as if Elvis's music had a calming, almost therapeutic effect on him. Word started to spread around the zoo. "Have you seen the Elvis chimp?" visitors would whisper, pointing. Sarah tried to keep it low-key. She didn't want Marvin to become a circus act, but she couldn't deny the evidence of her own eyes and ears. She even started leaving her radio on a bit longer during her shifts, tuned to a station known for playing the King's hits. One afternoon, Mr. Henderson, the zoo director, a man more concerned with budgets and visitor numbers than the musical tastes of primates, walked by Marvin's enclosure. "Sarah," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Is that? Can't help falling in love, I hear." Sarah flinched, caught red-handed. "Oh, Mr. Henderson, yes, it is. I was just doing some enclosure maintenance." Mr. Henderson looked at Marvin, who was at that moment swaying gently, on his swing eyes half closed in what appeared to be pure contentment. "Interesting," he murmured. "He seems quite relaxed. He really responds to Elvis, sir. It's quite extraordinary. He's calmer, happier. It seems to genuinely improve his well-being." Mr. Henderson raised an eyebrow. "A chimp with a musical preference. I've heard it all now. Well, as long as it doesn't disrupt the other animals, I suppose. Just make sure it doesn't get too loud, Sarah. We don't want to disturb the flamingos." He walked away, shaking his head slightly, probably already calculating the cost of noise-canceling headphones for an entire flock of birds. Sarah smiled. It wasn't a full endorsement, but it wasn't a reprimand either. It was progress. Marvin, meanwhile, opened his eyes, met Sarah's gaze, and then looked back at the small radio, letting out another soft hoo-hoo. He knew He definitely knew. The rhythms of Memphis were calling to him, and he was answering one velvety voice at a time. The king had found an unlikely but utterly devoted fan in the heart of the Memphis Zoo. Sarah's unofficial experiment with Marvin's musical preferences continued, but it soon outgrew the confines of her quiet observations. Marvin's reaction to Elvis wasn't just a subtle contentment anymore. It was becoming a performance. When suspicious minds blasted from Sarah's little radio, Marvin would sometimes stand on his hind legs, shuffle his feet, and even mimic holding a microphone with his hand, though of course there was none. It was uncanny, almost as if he was channeling a tiny furry Elvis. The news spread beyond the zookeepers. Visitors began to notice. A small crowd would often gather near Marvin's enclosure, drawn by the sound of Elvis and the sight of the chimp's unusual antics. Children would giggle, parents would snap photos, and whispers would ripple through the crowd. Did you see that he really likes Elvis? It's true. They say he calms down when the king is playing. Soon people started bringing their own portable radios or phones, holding them up to the glass of Marvin's enclosure. The variety of sound was sometimes chaotic. One person playing Blue Suede Shoes, another Love Me Tender, all at varying volumes. Marvin surprisingly seemed to absorb it all, picking out the familiar melodies and reacting to each. Sarah had to intervene sometimes, politely asking visitors to keep the volume down to avoid stressing the other animals, but the enthusiasm was undeniable. One afternoon, a local news reporter, Brenda Jenkins, known for her quirky human interest stories, arrived at the zoo. She'd heard a whisper on the wind, a tip about an Elvis-loving chimpanzee. Sarah, initially hesitant, agreed to an interview emphasizing the positive impact the music had on Marvin's well-being rather than just the spectacle of it. Sarah. Brenda asked her microphone, pointed at Sarah, then swiveling towards Marvin. You're saying this chimp, Marvin, he genuinely prefers Elvis Presley's music over, say, classical or jazz? Absolutely, Sarah affirmed, nodding. We've tried various genres. He responds most consistently and positively. To Elvis, it seems to have a calming, enriching effect on him. He's less agitated, more engaged, and just generally happier. As if on cue, Brenda's cameraman started playing Heartbreak Hotel from his phone. Marvin, who had been grooming Caesar just moments before, stopped, his ears twitching. Turned, looked directly at the phone, and then slowly began to sway. He closed his eyes, then opened them, revealing a look of pure bliss. The camera zoomed in, capturing every nuanced expression. The news segment aired that evening, and the next morning Marvin was no longer just a local curiosity. He was a phenomenon. Marvin, the Memphis melody maker, the headline of the local paper declared, "Chimp's heart sings for the king." The zoo experienced an unprecedented surge in visitors, and the zoo director was initially overwhelmed. "Sarah, this is pandemonium," he exclaimed, gesturing at the long line of people at the ticket booths. "It's good for the zoo, Mr. Henderson," Sarah pointed out, trying to sound calm amidst the chaos. More visitors mean more awareness, more donations for conservation efforts. True, he conceded, already seeing the dollar signs. This constant stream of handheld radios, it's a bit much, isn't it? And the sound quality is terrible. He deserves better than tinny phone speakers, if he truly is such a connoisseur. Sarah's eyes lit up. Precisely, Mr. Henderson, if we're going to embrace Marvin's unique talent, we should do it properly. Imagine a dedicated, high-quality sound system for his enclosure, something durable, weather-resistant, pseur, in transportation, a genuine benefit. To Marvin Eta, would be an enrichment tool a zoo. Mr. Henderson stretched his chin. A sound system, you say, custom built, that sounds expensive. It would be an investment, Sarah argued passionately. Not just in Marvin, but in the zoo's image. It would show our commitment to animal welfare and innovation. And think of the publicity Memphis Zoo installs state-of-the-art sound system for its Elvis chimp. The director sighed. Then a glimmer of a smile touched his lips. You always were a good persuader. Sarah, all right, look into it, get some quotes, but it would have to be something truly special to justify it, and perhaps something that would ensure only Elvis is played. As she walked away, a bold, almost audacious idea began to form in her mind. Who better to provide a truly special sound system for an Elvis-loving chimp than the king himself? It was a long shot, a crazy dream, but Marvin deserved the best. And if anyone could understand the power of music, it was Elvis Presley. The whispers had grown into a roar, and now it was time to make some noise of their own. The idea of reaching out to Elvis Presley himself, or at least his estate, became an obsession for Sarah. She spent hours researching not just sound systems, but also Elvis's known philanthropic efforts and his personal connections to Memphis. She learned about his love for animals, his generosity, and his deep roots in the city. It fueled her conviction that this wasn't just a pipe dream. It was a plausible, albeit audacious, possibility. She compiled the detailed report for Mr. Henderson, outlining the specifications for the ideal sound system, industrial-grade weatherproof speakers, kit and wiring for safety, a secure control panel that all file. Sarah, this is an impressive proposal, he admitted, tapping the stack of papers. But where do you propose we get this kind of funding? Our annual budget simply doesn't allow for such a niche expenditure. That's where my other idea comes in, Sarah said, taking a deep breath. I believe we should formally write to Elvis Presley or his official representatives, explain Marvin's story, ask for his patronage. Mr. Henderson's eyes widened. He stared at her for a long moment, then burst into a hearty, disbelieving laugh. You are serious, aren't you, Sarah? Write to the king asking him to buy a sound system for a monkey? A chimpanzee, sir, Sarah corrected gently. And yes, I am serious. He's a Memphis icon in his own way now. This is a unique, heartwarming story. Who better to appreciate the profound impact of his music than Elvis appreciate? Mr. Henderson continued to chuckle, but there was a flicker of thought in his eyes. He knew the power of a good story, especially one involving Elvis. It's a long shot, Sarah, a very, very long shot. He's a busy man. A legend, he probably gets thousands of requests a day. But this isn't just any request, Sarah countered passionately. This is about an animal, a living creature, whose quality of life is genuinely improved by his art. It's about the universal power of music. It's a genuine connection, not just a celebrity endorsement. And it's here, in his hometown. The director leaned back in his chair. The potential benefits were huge. Masses, positive media coverage, a significant donation without impacting the zoo's budget, and a feel-good story that would resonate with people worldwide. The risks. Polite rejection, maybe. A bit of a local laugh at the zoo's expense for trying such a stunt. But the zoo was already getting a lot of attention from Marvin. What did they have to lose? All right, Sarah, Mr. Henderson finally said, rubbing his temples. You're either a genius or completely mad. Draft the letter, make it personal, make it compelling, explain everything, and make sure it's respectful. Address it to his primary management. Or fount a surge of elation. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. You won't regret this. That evening, Sarah went home and started writing. She poured her heart into the letter, detailing Marvin's journey from a regular chimp to a dedicated Elvis enthusiast. She described how his behavior had changed, how his days were brighter, his stress levels lower, all thanks to the familiar strains of Teddy Bear or Viva Las Vegas. She included a few photos. Marvin swaying, Marvin tapping his feet, Marvin simply looking serene while an Elvis song played. She explained the need for a professional, secure system that would truly enrich Marvin's life without compromising his safety or the integrity of his enclosure. She worked on it for days, refining every sentence, making sure the tone was just right, respectful, earnest, and undeniably heartfelt. She knew this was her one chance. When she finally printed it, sealed it in an official zoo envelope, and added the carefully researched address for Elvis Presley Enterprises. And she felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. "Wish us luck, Marvin," she whispered to the chimp during her next shift, holding up the letter, though he of course couldn't understand. Marvin, busy grooming himself, merely glanced at her, then let out a contented chuff. He didn't know what was about to happen, but he certainly knew his music, and soon, maybe, he'd have the best sound system a chimp could ever dream of. Crazy idea had taken root, and now it was out of their hands, heading toward the desk of a legend. The envelope, thick with pages and photographs, felt heavy in Sarah's hand as she dropped it into the mailbox. It wasn't just a letter. It was a plea, a hope, a shot in the dark. The address was to Elvis Presley Enterprises. In the official management and licensing company that oversaw all things related to the king, she knew the chances were slim. Elvis was a global icon, even years after his passing. In this alternate reality, he's alive, but still a legend with a huge enterprise. His office must be inundated with requests daily. Why would they pay attention to a letter from a zookeeper about a chimp? The waiting began. Every morning Sarah arrived at work with a nervous flutter in her stomach, half expecting to see a thick, official-looking envelope on Mr. Henderson's desk. Either the replied rejection, or even worse, no reply at all. But dazed from Graceland was deafening. "Any news from the king, Sarah?" Mr. Henderson would occasionally ask, a hint of amusement in his voice. He wasn't malicious, just pragmatic. He hadn't truly believed it would work. "Not yet, sir," Sarah would reply, trying to keep her voice steady despite the knot of disappointment forming in her chest. She continued to play Elvis for Marvin on her small radio, the sound now seeming a little less grand, a little more personal, almost like a secret between her and the chimp. Marvin, blissfully unaware of the administrative hurdles and the long odds, continued to thrive on his daily dose of Elvis. He'd learned to recognize the radio, eagerly approaching the edge of his enclosure when Sarah arrived. He'd sit patiently, sometimes grooming himself, sometimes simply watching her until the first chords of an Elvis song filled the air. Then the magic would happen. His shoulders would relax, his eyes would soften, and sometimes he'd let out a soft hoo-hoo of pure contentment. Sarah felt increasingly disheartened. Perhaps it had been a foolish idea. Perhaps the letter had been lost in the mail or immediately dismissed as a prank. She started to consider alternative funding options, perhaps a local fundraiser, though she knew it would be difficult to raise enough for the kind of high-quality, durable system Marvin truly needed. One particularly gray, drizzly Tuesday morning, Sarah was cleaning Marvin's enclosure, her mood as gloomy as the weather. Marvin was huddled in a corner, seeming a little subdued without the usual sunshine. Sarah had forgotten her radio that day, and the silence felt heavy. Suddenly her walkie-talkie crackled. It was Mr. Henderson's secretary. "Sarah, can you come to Mr. Henderson's office immediately and bring Marvin's file?" Sarah's heart leaped. This was it. A rejection. Or maybe a call to say they thought it was a joke and would she please stop bothering famous people. She braced herself, grabbed Marvin's neatly organized file, and headed to the director's office. When she arrived, Mr. Henderson was on the phone, his back to her. He gestured for her to sit, his face unreadable. She sat on the edge of her seat, clutching the file. "Yes, Mr. Davies," Mr. Henderson was saying into the phone, his voice a little softer than usual. "Yes, she's right here. Sarah Miller, our head primate zookeeper." He paused, listening. "Oh, absolutely. We'd be delighted to accommodate you tomorrow morning." "Excellent. We look forward to it." He hung up the phone and turned to Sarah, a stunned, almost giddy expression on his face. "Sarah," he said, his voice a little breathless. "That was Mr. Davies from Elvis Presley Enterprises." Sarah gasped, and she prompted, barely daring to breathe. "They received your letter, Mr. Henderson," said a wide smile spreading across his face. "And they're intrigued. Apparently it stood out. Mr. Presley himself was shown the letter and the photographs." Sarah's jaw dropped. Elvis saw it. "Yes, and they want to send someone down here tomorrow morning. Mr. Davies himself. He wants to see Marvin Furhand." Mr. Henderson looked at her with a new respect in his eyes. "Well done, Sarah. I didn't think you had it in you." Sarah was speechless. The long shot, the crazy idea, had landed. Not a sound system yet, but a bridge. A direct line to the king. Tomorrow, the fate of Marvin's musical dreams would rest on a performance. A performance Marvin didn't even know he was preparing for. She could only hope Marvin was in a good mood tomorrow. She rushed back to his enclosure, a renewed spring in her step, already planning what Elvis songs to play him, to get him warmed up for his very important guest. The waiting was over. The verification was about to begin. The news that Elvis Presley Enterprises was sending a representative to the zoo electrified Sarah. The zoo director, Mr. Henderson, was suddenly all smiles and bustling efficiency. Cleaning crews were given extra duties. The grounds were manicured to perfection, and even the gift shop was stocked with new Elvis-themed merchandise, just in case. "Remember, Sarah?" Mr. Henderson instructed her the next morning as she waited anxiously by Marvin. "This is about the zoo's reputation. Be professional, be articulate, and make sure Marvin is cooperative." Sarah nodded, a tight knot of nerves in her stomach. "He'll be fine, sir. He always is, especially with Elvis music." She'd spent the early morning playing Marvin's favorites, trying to get him into a good mood. Viva! Las Vegas had prompted a playful chase with Caesar, and return to sender had seen him happily swinging from a tire. He seemed happy, vibrant, and ready for his big moment, even if he didn't understand the stakes. Precisely at 10 a.m., a sleek black car pulled up to the zoo's administrative entrance. Out stepped a man in a sharp suit, carrying a briefcase. This was Mr. Davies, Elvis's representative. He was a stern-looking man with a no-nonsense demeanor and keen, assessing eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He shook Mr. Henderson's hand firmly, then turned to Sarah, offering a brief, almost imperceptible nod. "Mr. Davies," Mr. Henderson began, a little too enthusiastically, "welcome to the Memphis Zoo. Thank you for coming." "Let's get straight to it," Mr. Davies said, his voice calm but authoritative. "I've read M.S. Miller's letter. It's unusual, to say the least. My purpose here is to see if these claims are truly as compelling as she suggests." They walked towards the primate enclosure. As they approached, Mr. Davies glanced around, observing the other chimps who were engaged in their usual activities. He remained impassive. Sarah's heart pounded. This was it. "Marvin, there." Sarah pointed, indicating the chimp who was currently grooming Lily. "He's our star in this particular matter." Mr. Davies folded his arms unimpressed. "He looks like any other chimpanzee to me." "He is in many ways," Sarah agreed, "but his reaction to music, specifically Elvis's music, is unique. We've seen a measurable improvement in his overall demeanor and well-being when he's regularly exposed to it." "Prove it," Mr. Davies challenged, his gaze fixed on Marvin. Sarah had come prepared. She pulled out her phone, which was connected to a small, high-quality portable speaker she'd brought specifically for this demonstration. "I'll start with something else just to show the contrast," she said. She played a short classical piece, a gentle piano sonata. Marvin glanced at the sound source, then went back to grooming Lily, seemingly bored. "Now, Sarah," said a confident smile touching her lips, "for the main event." She paused, then hit play on a track she knew Marvin loved. "Burning Love." The moment the opening chords filled the air, something shifted. Marvin's head snapped up, his grooming ceased. He slowly rose to his feet, his intelligent eyes fixed on the speaker. He started to sway, a gentle, rhythmic movement of his shoulders and hips. His lips parted slightly, and a soft hoot escaped him. As Elvis's vocals kicked in, Marvin's movements became more pronounced. He bounced on the balls of his feet, his fingers tapping an imaginary beat on his chest. Turned his head, seemingly looking for the source of the voice, then turned back to face the speaker, completely engrossed. He even let out a joyful, almost laugh, like chuff. It wasn't an aggressive display. It was pure, unadulterated enjoyment. Mr. Davies' stoic expression began to crack. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. He watched Marvin, then Sarah, then Marvin. Again, his initial skepticism slowly giving way to astonishment. He leaned closer to the glass, trying to catch every nuance of Marvin's reaction. The song continued, and Marvin seemed to become even more animated. He threw his head back for a moment, then pounded his chest softly to the beat, a happy, relaxed expression on his face. When the song finally faded out, Marvin let out a drawn-out, almost mournful, "Ha ha ha," as if asking for more. A silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant sounds of other zoo animals. Mr. Davies finally turned away from the enclosure, a different look in his eyes. He still held his poker face, but Sarah could see the shift. He was no longer just skeptical. He was deeply intrigued, maybe even a little moved. "Remarkable," he said, his voice softer than before. He cleared his throat. "I have to admit, Ms. Miller, I've never seen anything quite like it. Mr. Presley will be very interested to hear." Pulled a small notebook from his jacket pocket and scribbled something down. "Thank you for the demonstration. I have all the information I need. You'll be hearing from us very soon." He shook Mr. Henderson's hand again, a bit more warmly this time, and then gave Sarah a nod that felt almost like a compliment. As he walked back to his car, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was far more than she had dared to hope for. A glimmer of hope indeed. Marvin's big performance had paid off. The hours after Mr. Davies' visit stretched into an eternity. For Sarah, every phone ring, every email notification made her jump. Mr. Henderson was equally on edge, though he tried to maintain his usual composure. The zoo was abuzz with speculation. Everyone knew someone from Elvis's office had visited. The excitement was palpable. Meanwhile, Mr. Davies was on his way back to Graceland, the grand estate that was Elvis Presley's sanctuary and office. As he drove, the image of Marvin, swaying and hooting to Burning Love, played over and over in his mind. He'd seen a lot of things in his career working for Elvis, but nothing quite as bizarrely endearing as a chimpanzee, with such a profound appreciation for the king's music. Upon arrival, Mr. Davies went directly to Elvis's private study. The room was grand yet comfortable, filled with books, awards, and memorabilia from a legendary career. Elvis sat in a plush armchair strumming a guitar, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Davies, you're back," Elvis said, setting his guitar aside. "So tell me about this chimp. You said the letter was compelling. You weren't pulling my leg, were you?" There was a playful glint in his eyes, but also genuine curiosity. Mr. Davies, usually so formal, found himself smiling. "Mr. Presley, I assure you it's no joke. It's quite something. I confess I was entirely skeptical. I thought it was some kind of elaborate publicity stunt." He paused, collecting his thoughts, then recounted the entire visit. He described Sarah Miller's passion, the sterile enclosure, and then the moment he played Burning Love, he painted a vivid picture of Marvin's transformation. "He didn't just react, sir," Mr. Davies emphasized. "He felt it. He moved with the music. His eyes closed sometimes, then open. Fixed on the speaker, he looked happy, genuinely, deeply happy." Elvis listened intently, his expression shifting from amusement to genuine interest. Then to a quiet wonder, he leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "A chimp, huh? Loves my music." He shook his head slowly, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Well, I'll be. That's quite a compliment, isn't it?" Mr. Davies continued. Ms. Miller also explained how the music has a therapeutic effect on Marvin, reduces his stress, improves his interaction with other chimps. She's proposing a custom-built, durable sound system for his enclosure to provide a consistent, high-quality audio experience as an enrichment tool. Elvis got up and walked to the large window, looking out at the sprawling grounds of Graceland. He was silent for a long moment, lost in thought. He remembered the feeling of music coursing through him, the joy it brought to him and the way it seemed to touch people's souls. To think it could touch an animal in such a profound way, it was humbling. He thought of Memphis, his hometown, and the zoo, a place he hadn't visited in years. The idea of helping a creature there, a creature so unexpectedly moved by his songs, resonated deeply with him. It wasn't about fame or money. It was about the pure, unfiltered impact of his art. "Davies," Elvis finally said, turning from the window, a decisive look on his face. "Get me the details on this sound system, the best one. Something that will last, something that's safe for the chimp. Money is no object." Mr. Davies nodded, pulling out his notebook. "Already have the preliminary specs from MS Miller, sir. She seems to have done her homework." "Good," Elvis said, a warm smile spreading across his face. "And tell MS Miller, tell her, I'm touched. This Marvin, he sounds like a special little fellow. And Davies, I want to make sure this is done right. I want to personally approve the plans for the installation. I want to make sure it's perfect for Marvin." Mr. Davies' eyebrows rose slightly. "And one more thing," Elvis added, picking up his guitar again. He strummed a few chords, then began to softly hum, "Love Me Tender." "Make sure that Chimp gets all the Elvis he can handle. Every song, every album, a whole library of the King's music," Mr. Davies grinned. "Consider it done, Mr. Presley." He left the study, closing the door quietly behind him, leaving Elvis to his music and his thoughts. The King had made his decision, and a very special chimpanzee was about to have his world completely transformed. The glimmer of hope had become a bright, shining light. The call came the very next afternoon. Sarah was busy observing Marvin, who was happily gnawing on a treat, when her walkie-talkie buzzed. "Now, Mr. Henderson's office now." The urgency in the secretary's voice told her this wasn't a casual chat. She hurried to the office, her heart pounding. Mr. Henderson was beaming, practically bouncing in his seat. He looked like a child on Christmas morning. "Sirrah," he exclaimed, "you won't believe it. That was Mr. Davies again. Elvis Presley himself has agreed to fund the entire sound system for Marvin's enclosure." Sarah gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. "He did? Really? Oh my goodness!" A wave of relief, joy, and overwhelming validation washed over her. "Not only that," Mr. Henderson continued, his voice still vibrating with excitement. "He wants to bestly oversee the plans for the installation. He's genuinely touched by Marvin's story." Mr. Davies said he found it incredibly humbling. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. It wasn't just about the money or the equipment. It was about the king of rock and roll recognizing the profound connection an animal had to his music. It was about the power of music transcending species. "This is incredible, Mr. Henderson," she finally managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. "This is beyond anything I could have hoped for. It will truly change Marvin's life." Over the next few days, the zoo became a flurry of activity. Communication with Elvis Presley Enterprises was constant. Mr. Davies, now much warmer and more cooperative, worked directly with Sarah and the zoo's facilities manager. They discussed the specific needs for a primate enclosure. Durability. The speakers and wiring had to withstand all weather conditions in curious chimp hands. Safety. No exposed wires, no sharp edges, nothing that could be a hazard. Placement. Speakers would be strategically placed for optimal sound quality throughout the large enclosure, ensuring Marvin could enjoy the music no matter where he was. Control. A secure, remote-controlled system that only authorized personnel could operate, ensuring that the music would be consistent and appropriate for Marvin. Music. Library. A digital library preloaded with every single Elvis Presley song, from his early Sun Records hits to his Vegas era. Elvis himself, through Mr. Davies, requested regular updates. He even asked for blueprints of the enclosure, suggesting optimal speaker placements based on his own experience with sound systems. It was clear this wasn't just a charitable donation. It was a passion project for him. The news predictably leaked to the media. The local papers ran headlines like, "The King's Gift," "Elvis Funds," "Chimp Sound System," and "Marvin's Dream Comes True, Thanks to Presley." National news outlets picked up the story. The Memphis Zoo and Marvin became international sensations. Interview requests poured in for Sarah and Mr. Henderson. "This is astounding publicity, Sarah," Mr. Henderson said, shaking his head in disbelief, after another phone call from a major TV network. "Our visitor numbers are already through the roof, and the system isn't even installed yet." Sarah, however, was focused solely on Marvin. She imagined him truly immersed in the rich, clear sounds of Elvis's voice, the thumping bass, the soaring guitars. Her heart swelled with anticipation. This wasn't just about an animal anymore. It was about a testament to the power of connection, the unexpected bonds that form, and the incredible generosity of a legend. The sound system was custom designed and manufactured by a top audio company. Working closely with Elvis Presley Enterprises specifications, it took weeks for the specialized equipment to be built and shipped. Every detail was meticulously planned, every component chosen for its quality and resilience. Finally, the day arrived for the delivery and installation. A large truck emblazoned with the logo of the audio company pulled up to the zoo gates. Inside, packed securely in crates, was Marvin's ultimate gift. The royal decree had been issued, and soon the king's music would truly fill the enclosure of his most devoted and furry fan. The stage was set for Marvin's grand unveiling. The day of the sound system installation was a whirlwind. The Memphis Zoo buzzed with an energy unlike anything Sarah had ever witnessed. Television crews, newspaper reporters, and photographers converged on the primate enclosure. Even casual visitors swelled the crowds, hoping to catch a glimpse of the special event. Mr. Henderson, dressed in his finest suit, moved through the throng with a practiced air of importance. A team of expert technicians from the audio company arrived early, along with a few representatives from Elvis Presley Enterprises, including Mr. Davies. They worked with precision, carefully installing the heavy-duty weather-resistant speakers high up in the enclosure, out of Marvin's reach, the perfectly angled for optimal sound. Wires were meticulously threaded through conduit hidden from view and protected from curious chimp fingers. A secured, tamper-proof control panel was mounted in the zookeeper's observation area, accessible only with a key. Marvin, along with Caesar and Lily, had been temporarily moved to an adjacent holding area, curious about the unusual activity in their main habitat. He watched the technicians with wide eyes, occasionally hooting at their strange tools and ladders. By late morning, everything was in place. The system was tested, a soft hum indicating its readiness. Mr. Davies gave a final nod of approval. "All right, everyone," Mr. Henderson announced, stepping forward to address the assembled press. "We are here today to celebrate a truly unique event. The Memphis Zoo is incredibly grateful to Mr. Elvis Presley, who, touched by the story of our chimpanzee, Marvin, has generously funded the installation. This is an investment in Marvin's well-being, an enrichment tool that acknowledges his extraordinary love for the king's music." Mr. Davies then stepped up to the mic, being, "On behalf of Mr. Presley, I want to express how deeply moved he was by Ms. Sarah Miller's letter, and the opportunity to contribute to Marvin's quality of life. Mr. Presley believes in the power of music to touch every soul, human or otherwise. He hopes the system brings Marvin immense joy for years to come." He then unveiled a large framed photograph, a personal message from Elvis himself to Marvin, "My favorite fan, keep on rocking. With love, Elvis." Sarah, standing quietly beside them, felt her heart swell. This was it, the moment she had dreamed of for months. And now, Mr. Henderson declared, "Let's welcome Marvin back to his newly upgraded home." The zookeepers carefully ushered Marvin, Caesar, and Lily back into the main enclosure. Marvin paused at the entrance, his eyes taking in the unfamiliar speakers. He chuffed a sound of slight apprehension, but also curiosity. Sarah walked over to the secure control panel. She took a deep breath, inserted the key, and selected Marvin's absolute favorite from the meticulously curated playlist, Jailhouse Rock. The opening guitar riff, crisp and powerful, filled the enclosure. It wasn't the tinny sound from a small radio. It was rich, deep, and all-encompassing. Marvin froze. His head snapped up, his ears swiveling. His eyes darted around, trying to locate the source of the incredible sound. Then, as Elvis's iconic vocals started, a transformation occurred. His cautious demeanor vanished, his lips pulled back slightly in a chimp grin. He started to sway, slowly at first. Then with more vigor, he looked truly overwhelmed. He pounded his chest lightly, shimmied his shoulders, and then, to the delight of the crowd and the flashing cameras, he did his signature little shuffle. A joyous, uninhibited dance. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Marvin, seemingly unfazed by the attention, continued his private concert. He rolled on his back, kicking his feet to the beat, then sat up and started clapping his hands in time with the drums. He looked utterly, blissfully happy. Sarah watched tears streaming down her face. It was more than just a sound system. It was a testament to love, generosity, and the universal language of music. Elvis Presley, the king, had reached out, and in doing so, he had not only enriched the life of a single chimpanzee, but had also created a heartwarming legend that would resonate for generations to come. The grand unveiling was a resounding success, a true harmony of hearts. Life at the Memphis Zoo took on a new rhythm after the installation of Marvin's sound system. Chimp enclosure, once filled with the occasional squawk of a radio or the ambient sounds of the zoo, now resonated daily with the clear, powerful voice of Elvis Presley. The sound system operated on a schedule, playing Elvis for several hours throughout the day, providing a consistent and enriching auditory environment for Marvin. Marvin himself was a changed chimp. His natural curiosity remained, but his moments of agitation were significantly reduced. He seemed perpetually content, often found lounging near one of the speakers, his eyes half closed in what could only be described as musical ecstasy. He interacted more playfully with Caesar and Lily, and his training sessions became even more cooperative. Sarah often observed him making soft vocalizations during his favorite songs, almost as if singing along. The sound system wasn't just for Marvin's benefit. It became a major attraction. Visitor numbers at the zoo skyrocketed, with people traveling from all over to witness the famous Elvis chimp in action. The zoo capitalized on the interest, placing educational signs near the enclosure, explaining the science behind animal enrichment and the unique bond between Marvin and Elvis's music. Donations poured in, inspired by the heartwarming story, allowing the zoo to fund other vital conservation and animal welfare projects. "This is unprecedented, Sarah," Mr. Henderson remarked one busy afternoon watching the crowds near Marvin's enclosure. "The Elvis effect, as I'm now calling it, has transformed the zoo. We've been able to upgrade several other enclosures, hire more staff, and launch new educational programs, all thanks to the increased revenue and public interest." Sarah smiled, watching Marvin do a little shimmy to blue suede shoes. "It's amazing what a little kindness and a lot of good music can do." The story even sparked interest beyond the zoo walls. Researchers from universities contacted Sarah, intrigued by Marvin's unique response to music. They proposed studies on animal cognition and the impact of auditory stimulation on primate behavior. Marvin, without knowing it, was contributing to scientific understanding. One particularly heartwarming outcome was the surge in adoptions and donations to local animal shelters. Inspired by the story of how music improved Marvin's life, many people began to consider how they could enrich the lives of their own pets or shelter animals. Animal charities reported an uptick in volunteers and support, creating a ripple effect of compassion throughout the community. The sound system itself was a marvel of engineering. Designed to withstand chimp curiosity and the elements, it functioned flawlessly. Creating playlist, managed by Sarah, ensured a varied selection of Elvis's vast catalog, keeping Marvin engaged and preventing monotony. Even the other chimps seemed to adjust. Caesar and Lily, initially a bit confused by the constant music, eventually became accustomed to it. Sometimes they even seemed to react, though not with Marvin's passion. Lily would occasionally sit near Marvin while he listened, perhaps finding a sense of calm in the rhythmic vibrations. Marvin's story became a staple in Memphis folklore. A testament to the city's enduring connection to its most famous son, school children learned about him, tourists sought him out, and locals felt a renewed sense of pride in their zoo and its extraordinary resident. For Sarah, her daily routine with Marvin was now filled with an even deeper sense of purpose. She wasn't just a zookeeper. She was the guardian of a very special bond, a bridge between two worlds. She saw the pure joy in Marvin's eyes when "Don't be cruel" came on. And she knew that every single effort, every anxious wait, every conversation with Mr. Henderson had been worth it. The sound system was now an integral part of Marvin's world, a constant source of happiness and calm, solidifying the new normal at the Memphis Zoo. Years passed and Marvin continued to be the Memphis Zoo's most beloved resident. The custom-built sound system remained a permanent fixture in his enclosure, delivering the crisp, clear sounds of Elvis Presley's music day in and day out. It was a testament to durability, ingenuity, and the incredible power of a benevolent king. Marvin himself aged gracefully, his hair showing streaks of gray, but his love for Elvis never waned. He still swayed to Hound Dog, still tapped his feet to Jailhouse Rock, and still found profound peace in the gentle melodies of Can't Help Falling in Love. Visitors, some of whom had first heard his story as children, now brought their own kids to witness the legendary Elvis chimp. The impact of Elvis's generosity was immeasurable. The initial surge in visitors had settled into a steady increase, positioning the Memphis Zoo as a top attraction and a leader in animal welfare innovation. The increased donations allowed for continuous improvements across the zoo, benefiting countless other animals and supporting crucial conservation programs worldwide. Marvin's story, a simple tale of a chimp, and his music had resonated globally, inspiring discussions about animal enrichment, the unexpected bonds between species, and the enduring legacy of a musical icon. Sarah Miller, now a respected figure in the zoological community, often spoke at conferences, sharing Marvin's story. She emphasized not just the spectacle, but the genuine therapeutic benefits the music provided. It wasn't just about entertainment, she would explain. It was about understanding Marvin's unique needs, recognizing his individuality, and finding a way to enrich his life in a truly profound way. Elvis Presley, with his incredible kindness, helped us do that. While they never developed Marvin's passionate reactions, they seemed calmer when the music played, less prone to minor squabbles. The consistent positive soundscape had perhaps created a more harmonious environment for the entire chimp family. Graceland and the Memphis Zoo maintained a special relationship. Elvis Presley Enterprises often highlighted Marvin's story as a shining example of the king's philanthropic spirit. On significant anniversaries of Elvis's career, the zoo would sometimes host special Marvin's Favorites days, playing a curated selection of his most beloved songs for the crowds. As the sun set over the Memphis Zoo on any given evening, a familiar melody would often drift from the primate enclosure. Marvin, now often sitting quietly with his eyes closed, would absorb the vibrations, lost in a world of sound that had become his comfort, his joy, his constant companion. He was more than just a chimp. He was a living symbol of a unique, heartwarming connection. The story of Marvin and Elvis became a cherished part of Memphis history, woven into the fabric of a city famous for its music. It was a reminder that kindness knows no bounds, that generosity can come from the most unexpected places, and that the power of music truly transcends all barriers, even those between species. King had paid for a sound system, but he had given so much more: a legacy of harmony, a story of pure joy, and a song that would forever play in the heart of a chimp named Marvin. And as long as Marvin lived, the spirit of Elvis and the magic of his music would continue to fill the Memphis air.